Little Freda Josephine McDonald, who was born into poverty in 1906 in St. Louis and began working as a live-in maid by the age of 8 in a house where she was abused, who was married and divorced by the time she was 13, and who initially supported herself by dancing on the streets after being rejected from the chorus lines as too skinny and too dark, became the first African American woman to achieve international stardom. Today, February the 3rd, 2023, Lyles Station Historic Schoolhouse and Museum recognizes the many talents and contributions made by Josephine Baker. While she is best known for her scandalous stage costumes, often performing nude or near nude, her contributions made as a civil rights activist and French spy frequently go unnoticed. Her infamous banana skirt is much better known than the uniform she wore with the French Resistance. Baker filled her initial performances with slapstick comedy, and she had no problem mugging for the audiences, but her career took her further than vaudeville. Baker helped to bring about the Jazz Age, famously dancing the Charleston on stage in exotic costumes. Her uninhibited performances and dazzling costumes portray her as a sex symbol, but she was much more than that, serving as a primary contributor to the Harlem Renaissance, celebrating Black culture, music, and arts. In the mid-1920s, Baker demonstrated she was not just a dancer, recording her first song, going on to produce over 200 songs in the next 5 decades, in several different languages. Baker took to the screen in 1927 in Siren of the Tropics, followed by her starring role in Zuzu in 1934, distinguishing her as one of the first Black actresses with a leading role in a Hollywood production. In 1935, she appeared in Princess Tam Tam, a French comedy. Baker became a star at Les Folies Bergère, where audiences loved not only her sexy appearance, but her comedic mocking of stereotypes. Baker overcame deprivation and segregation and became the toast of Paris, where she enjoyed more success than in her home country. The little girl who once slept on cardboard boxes in St. Louis became one of the best-known entertainers in Europe who socialized with social elites. She was lauded as the Creole goddess. Pablo Picasso stated that Baker had a smile to end all smiles, and Ernest Hemingway described her as the most sensational woman anybody ever saw. Jim Crow laws and racism confronted Baker when she returned to the States in 1936, taking her show to the Ziegfeld Follies. Forced to enter venues from the service entrances and denied hotel lodgings, she returned to France and became a French citizen. Along the way, she became a spy. World War II saw the Nazis occupy Paris, and Baker bravely joined the French resistance. She served as a lieutenant in the French Air Force's Female Auxiliary Corps, entertained soldiers alongside Maurice Chevalier as a member of the Free French Forces, and also served as a spy. She left Paris when the Germans invaded, taking refuge at her chateau to avoid singing for the Nazis. She also hid both weapons and resistance fighters, along with Jewish refugees, at her chateau. She conveyed information she heard at events with Axis officials, writing it on sheets of music using invisible ink, or even hiding it in her underwear. She also seduced foreign military officials to pry information from them. France regarded her as a war hero and awarded her the Croix de Guerre and the French Legion of Honor. Starting in 1950, Baker and her fourth husband began forming their rainbow tribe, adopting 2 children from Asia. Their tribe grew to 12 children, showing that different races could peacefully live together as a family. Throughout Baker's career, she battled discrimination and spoke as a civil rights activist, refusing to entertain in clubs or theaters that were not integrated. Baker was responsible for helping break the color barrier at many venues. The NAACP honored her in 1951 with a lifetime membership based on her fight against segregation and injustice. Even after she became a French citizen, she frequently returned to the States, taking part in demonstrations and boycotts. She took part in the 1963 March on Washington with Martin Luther King Jr., the only woman who spoke at the event. Looking out over the crowd, Baker observed, "Salt and pepper, just what it should be." Financial difficulties prompted her return to the stage in 1973. She performed in front of a sold-out crowd at Carnegie Hall and received a standing ovation from the crowd, standing 6 inches deep in the roses they threw on stage to honor her. 50 years after her Parisian debut, in 1975, Baker passed away at the age of 68. Over 20,000 Parisians assembled to watch her funeral procession, with the French government honoring her with a 21-gun salute, the first American-born woman to be buried in France with military honors. Later, in 2021, her remains were transferred to the Pantheon, the nation's mausoleum of heroes, which Parisians recognize as France's highest honor. She rests alongside such French greats as scientist Marie Curie, French philosopher Voltaire, and writer Victor Hugo. Baker is the first performing artist, first Black woman, and first American to be honored with a Pantheon induction.